Alright, so we are in the 7th module in computer programming 12b. So we will actually talk about some more Java 2D development or game development. So for today, we will actually be discussing 3 different games na i-demo ko rin. The number 1 is actually the Snake. Number 2 is the Breakout. And number three is Tetris. So for today, for this part of the lesson, we will actually talk about the Snake. Alam naman natin ang Snake, no? Lahat tayo nakalaro nito. Snake is an older classic video game and it was actually first created in the late 70s. So later on, it was brought to PCs. And in this game, the idea of Snake is for us to control the snake. And the main objective is to eat as many apples as possible. And every time na nakakakain siya ng isang apple, yan, automatic, the body of the snake will actually grow. And the snake must avoid the walls and its own body. And this game is sometimes called nibbles. All right, so let's actually start with the development of Java Snake game. So I want you guys to prepare the image na in-upload natin way back. Nasaan ba yung image natin? It's in this case, idea projects natin. Idea projects, Java 2D game programming, SRC, and the resources. So, sa resources na folder, you have here the snake folder in which actually contains apple, the dot, and the head. So, the head here will serve as, of course, the head of the snake. The dot will actually serve as the body, and the apple will serve as the main objective na kinakain ng snake natin. So, the idea of this game is the head will now be the one who can be controlled and will be followed by the dots itself. And every time na kumakain si snake or nagko-collide si head sa mismong apple natin, automatic na automatic na nadadagdagan yung body or yung dot ni snake natin. So in this tutorial or in this demo or code demo here in our lesson for today, we will try to create a very simple snake game. And of course, pagdating nyo sa final big test ninyo, I will simply add some mechanics for you to for me to challenge everyone kung sino makakagawa nun, di ba? So yung mechanics na yon saka ko ni-announce, pero for now, we will try to focus first with the development of the snake. So let's go ahead and I want you guys to create here first the package. So usually pag nag-start tayo ng package dito, right click and create package. So I want you guys to name that as snake game. Ayan. Snake game tayo. Tapos once you have created the package here, I want you to create two different Java classes. So burahin ko muna ito para mas makapag-focus tayo. So let's create here snake.java and board.java. Okay? So, lagay ko yun dito. Please inform me if in case na hindi nyo makita si code demo natin. Importante na nakikita natin ng maayos yan. Alright? Now, in the snake, blurred siguro for now. Huwag kayong mag-alala, mag-ano rin yan mamaya. Teka, naka-high quality ba yung definition ko? Yan, naka-high quality naman. Sige. So for now, let's go ahead here and work on with the snake.java. And by the way guys, for your information po, everything is being recorded. So if in case na may part kayo na hindi nasundan, later on, you can always go ahead and rewind and rewatch the lesson para mas maintindihan natin. And of course, mas malinaw yung recorded version. Pero, if I were you, sundan na natin agad yung discussion natin for today. Para hindi na tayo mamroblema. Diba? So, let's work on with the snake.java. Now, the very first thing that you have to do here is, of course, include the package kung saan siya nakalagay. So, nakalagay yan sa package snake game. Diba? So, that's the name of the package here, the folder in which saan natin siya in-store. And followed by, of course, the public class snake. And And of course, the main method, string args. Tapos ganyan. Okay. So in the class snake, we already know that we need to inherit all of the components or data fields ni JFrame. And of course, we have to import here the package ni JFrame. So we have JFrame, and we have here java.out.eventQueue for the main method. So this will always be the start, okay, of our program, the main method. And kung napanood nyo yung discussions natin from the previous game development series natin, this is actually the way on how we start our program. Diba? So we have here the event queue, invoke later, in which we will add here a lambda expression. Yan. Kung saan ilalagay natin dito si JFrame x is equal to new snake, in which I will simply instantiate or call the snake method or the snake class na gagawin natin. And inside here is where we will be setting the visibility of the JFrame. So, very simple. Diba? Napaka-simple niyan. Now, since we will be calling or we instantiated the snake object here, it's also time for us to create here the constructor snake, in which we will call the initUI. And alam naman natin na si initUI, siya po yung nagsaset ng siya yung nagsaset ng ano natin, di ba? Ng properties ni JFrame. So, we have here public snake and the private void initUI. So here, inside the initUI, we will be setting the resizable into false. And we will also be setting the set location relative to. And so location relative to null. We will also be setting the default close operation. Set default close operation, and let's name that as jframe.exit and close. So yun muna. InitUI, and we are experiencing some errors. Hayaan muna natin yan for now. So public snake. Again, constructor ito ha. Kung nahihirapan kayo or nalilito kayo, don't worry. Kasi pwede nyo ulit naman siyang mapanood. Okay? So, JFrame X. So, mas maganda yata kung snake lang natin to. Or pwede rin namang JFrame. Yan. So, we have lambda expression. So far so good. Yan. And we add here the board. Yan yung board.java natin. So, we have public snake, initUI, and we added here the board. Okay. Yung board dyan, of course, meron pang error as of the moment kasi hindi pa natin siya totally ginagawa. Okay, are we now ready? Si board ngayon, siya po yung dito ngayon mag-uumpisa or mangyayari lahat ng part ng games natin. Yung sa stake mismo. So, we basically set the JFrame, the title of the JFrame. We actually also set the resizable into false. We also pack everything into one. So, JFrame.pack ito. So, gawin na natin si mismong board.java natin. So, let me put this one here para mas makita natin. Alright, so inside the board.java is where we will be declaring the package first. Tapos si public class board natin. Na pa ganyan. Okay, now for the public class board, we will be extending, of course, the JPanel. Diba? And since meron kasi tayo ditong action listener or may pinipindot tayo na up, down, left, right arrow, we will also be implementing an action listener. Yan. So mamaya, i-work out natin yan kung paano siya paano mawawala yung error. So next here, before we actually start with the coding, let's import the following packages. Of course, the color. Yan. Import din natin dito si dimension. Let's also import here the font. This is for the game over message. Yan. Tapos si metrics para mas magandang itsura. Let's also import here the graphics, java.out.graphics. And we also need to import, aside from the graphics, si image. Kasi ilalagay natin yung dalawang image natin mamaya. So out.image, we have also here the toolkit. Yan. And we have here out.event.actionEvent. Oops. So we have action event and action listener. We will also have here the key adapter para sa may mouse, sa button click natin. Tapos si key event natin. Let's also import here the javax.swing.image icon and the javax.swing.jpanel, which is important. Huwag natin kakalimutan yan. And si delay natin, yung speed natin ng snake mismo sa timer. Alright. So far so good. Okay. So, initially, I as much as possible, I would like to eliminate all of the possible errors here. Now, in order for us to do this, I can simply eliminate number 1 by adding the constructor, si board natin. So, usually, si constructor kasi ang pinakauna natin ilalagay dyan para ma-eliminate natin yung errors natin dito. We also have here to include the public void paint component in which we are doing, diba? Graphics G. Tapos, let's also put here the public void for the action listener naman. Ilagay natin dito si action listener or si action perform mismo. Yan, override public void action performed action event naman. Yan. So, kung napansin nyo, nawala na yung error natin dito sa mismong public class natin. Now, the very first thing that you have to do, especially when you are creating any game development, is, of course, to define all of the constants that can be used in our game. So, we can just simply use the following constants here. Let's copy and paste them dito sa mismong program natin. At the very beginning, oops, hindi pala siya maganda i-copy-paste ng pagganon, no? Okay lang din. So, copy-paste natin. Private. So, you have here the width and the height of the frame itself. You have the you have the dot size. And you have actually the dots, all dots. Ibig sabihin nito, this is the maximum dots or the maximum size of your snake later on. And we have here the random position, which is in equivalent to 29. Random position to ng apple. And the delay, which is 140. Now, the B width and the B height constants can actually determine the size of the board. And the dot size is the size of the apple and the dot of the snake. All dots constants, this one, defines the maximum number of possible dots on the board. So we have here 900. It's because 300 by 300. Diba? Kaya siya naging 900. Kasi yung size ng J-frame natin or the board itself is 300 by 300. Next is for us to add the to array. This will simply store the X and Y coordinates of the joints of our snake. Dito natin ilalagay si private final. Yan, int X. Lalagay natin siya sa array. It's equal to new int with the possible numbers, which is 900. And Y all dots. Okay, nagets ba natin? So far, so good, no? We will also be adding here the other variables na meron tayo ditong dots for the int. We will also have here the private int apple underscore x. We will also have here the apple underscore y. This will be the position of the apple. Yan. Tapos, we have here the private timer. Lagay na natin lahat sila. We also have here the image for the ball. Meron din tayong image for the apple. Meron din tayong image for the head. And of course, yung mga key presses natin. Yan, private boolean, left direction. Kapag pumindot tayo ng left direction, yan, let's set that as for now as false. Initial values, right direction is equal to false. It's important po na ma-declare po muna natin lahat ng mga alam natin na variables or pwede nating magamit na variables. Up direction is equal to false. No, the right direction should be true as initial value. Kasi papunta dito yung snake natin, pa right, diba? Private boolean down direction as false. And another boolean value which is for as long as the game is running. Ibig sabihin, hindi pa nagko-collide yung head ni snake sa mismong board natin. It will always result a value of true. So, laging true yan. Kapag for as long as umaandar yung game natin, hindi siya nag-game over, magto-true. If nag-collide yung snake natin sa mismong katawan niya or rather sa mismong board natin, of course, the value of in-game will now become false. So, go ahead and habulin nyo yung mga variables na kailangan nating ilagay dito. Ayan. So, next here is, of course, for us to work on with the board or the constructor. Si public board natin, we will be calling here what we call the init board natin. Si init board, this will actually serve as a method in which dito natin i-set yung property ni jpanel natin. So, private void, init board. Let's set here the background as black. Yan. Tapos, si focusable natin as true. Let's also set the preferred size as the dimension of the B width and the B height, which is, alam natin na this is 300 by 300. Okay? And, later on, tatawagin natin tong si key listener natin na T-adapter. Si T-adapter kasi, this will actually serve as the key listeners for your key presses. So kapag pumindot ka ng up, down, left, right, tatawagin niya tong si T-adapter na to. Okay? In order for us to eliminate the T-adapter for the moment, let's go ahead and create here a private class. Okay? So meron ka ditong private class T-adapter para mawala yan. And let's extend here the key adapters for the meantime. Ayan. So, tinawag lang natin si key adapter dito. So, para mawala lang yung error. For the meantime, wala muna tayong inalaki dito because this is actually where we will be placing all of the key presses. Okay? All of the key presses. Dito sa T adapter. Next is for us to go back doon sa may init board natin na tinawag from the constructor. Let's call here another method in which we call the load images. Si load images naman, yan, we will be getting the images for the game. And the image icon class is used for updating the PNG images. So dito, ngayon, tatawagin natin or gawin natin dito si private void load images. Ilalagay na kasi natin dito lahat ng kailangan natin na image for the game itself. So, private void load images. Okay. We have image icon. Yan. Let's name that as IID. This will actually serve as the dot para may palatandaan tayo. And the resources, dito ko siya nilagay sa folder na to. And .png. So sa inyo, make sure na magkaiba. Okay? Magkaiba yung, or pareho pala, yung mismong path source natin. And I'll name this as ball. Yan. I'll name this as ball. Yung dot mismo. IID.getImage itself. Yan. Next is for us to use the image icon. This time, IIA. Image icon. Now the resources, snake. This is apple.png. Diba? So, apple. Yan, apple.png. Let's name that as apple. Lagay din natin dito, iia.getImage. Next is image icon. Once again, this time, this is IIH for the head. Let's add here, or let's put here the path source. src resources, snake, then head.png. And so, piniprepare pa lang natin, no? Lahat ng possible na mangyari dito. Get image natin. So far, so good. Ayan. May error ako dito. This should be image icon. So, you are now done with the image icon itself. So, ibig sabihin, na-load na yung images mo sa mismong game natin. But then, of course, hindi pa ito magpapakita. Hindi pa ito totally gagana, di ba? Kasi wala pa naman yung mismong game natin. Okay? Now, let's work on here sa may paint component natin. It's important to call all of the components ni graphics natin. And we will also be calling another method here, which is the doDrawing. Alam naman natin na si doDrawing, this is where the events are happening. Diba? So, this is, the drawing of the snake itself is happening. So, doDrawing, graphics G. Yan. So, inside the doDrawing here, we have an if statement. Now, for as long as the game is running, something should happen. Otherwise, yan, we will be calling another method here called the game over method. Gagawin din natin si game over method mamaya. Yan. So, si game over method. So, again, if the game is running, may mangyayari dito. Otherwise, we will be calling the game over method. So, madami tayong method na tinatawag, no? Game over. This is graphics G. And for the meantime, let's leave it blank. Okay? Any questions so far? Nakakahabol naman, no? Ayan. So, paint component, doDrawing, in-game, and so on. Alright, so let's go back here sa may init board natin. So again, the init board was actually called inside the board constructor. And inside the board inside the init board constructor is also where we added here the key listeners for the key presses, in which gagawin natin mamaya. We also loaded all of the images here. And tawagin natin si another method in which we called initGame. Si initGame, ito siya. We create the snake, okay? And we randomly locate an apple on the board and start the timer. So, dito, sa part na to, si initGame na to, dito talaga natin gagawin si snake. Okay? Si snake natin. Yan, initGame. Initially, let's set the dots or the body of the snake as 3. So, 1, 2, 3 lang siya. So, yung dots natin dito, 3 bilog lang for the meantime. Okay, initially. And for every dots na meron, ayan, ilalagay natin ngayon yung value ng mga dots na nakakain sa isang for loop. Dito, sa part na to. Okay? So, for int c is equal to 0, and the size of the dots ayan, the size of the dots, si position ni x, ano ulit yung x natin? Ito, yung number, okay? Yung number ng dots natin. Store natin siya as 50 minus the value of z, which is initially as 0, multiplied by 10. Ito yung algorithm niya. This is actually very important, this algorithm here. Okay, so far we have here the snake. Dito natin siya ilalagay. And next is actually for us to make or locate the apples. yung locate apple dito, ito yung method kung saan randomly spawn si apple natin in the entire, in the entire game itself. So, on top of the action performed here, let's create here the private void locate apple. Again, ito yung method kung saan mag-random spawn si apple natin. So, let's declare here a variable r in which randomizer lang ito. Yan. Math.random multiplied by the random position ni snake. Ano ang random position ni snake dito? Initially, this is 29. Diba? Random position yan. So, ibig sabihin, every time na nagpo-produce siya ng value, si math.random, ikino-convert niya into an integer value multiplied by the random position of 9. So whatever happens, make sure, or we have to make sure na i-spawn si apple just inside the board itself. Si 300 by 300 lang na ano natin. So for the apple x, for the position of apple x, we have here the following statement. Yung random value multiplied by the dot size. Ang dot size natin initially is 10. Diba? So, the x position of the first apple na magra-random spawn, yan, will actually be located in the x coordinate, followed by si r ulit. This time, we have a math.random multiplied by the random position. Pero this time, ilalagay natin siya sa apple y, si position ngayon ni y. So, para makumpleto lang yung coordinate kung saan natin i-store or i-random spawn si apple mismo. And locate apple. Diba? So, ganun po siya. Locate apple. Random position lang yan ng apple natin. So, let's actually move on and let's go back dito sa nung tinawag natin si locate apple. Si locate apple ngayon, let's add here a timer or just simply a delay, 'di ba? Para doon kay snake natin. So si delay ng snake natin, it's actually moving every 140 milliseconds. Yan. So gumagalaw siya ng ganyan. So once the start or the game starts, tatawagin niya rin to. Timer.start. Next. Dito tayo ngayon sa do drawing. Si do drawing natin, again, for as long as the game is actually running, this time, dito natin i-draw si mismong snake and apple natin. So, let's draw the apple. And the position of the apple. Yan, apple x and apple y. This. And for every, ito, importante ito ha, for every dots, this one, asan yun? Ito. If the snake hits one of its joints, yan, the head will be game over for the meantime. Pero, dito kasi sa part na to, this is actually where we will be drawing all of the bodies or the position of the snake bodies. Depende kung nasan din yung head niya. So, susundan niya si head position niya. And in order for us to do that, this is actually the algorithm in doing that. I-check niya individually. Okay? For as long as si position X or 0, I mean si Z is 0, i-draw natin si head natin. Followed by the position ni X and Y natin. So again, si X and Y, array natin, this is actually where we will be storing the body. Okay, so you have here the head and you have the body. Ngayon, so kung ilan yung current na body niya, which is 3 initially, yun yung madodrawing for the meantime. Otherwise, let's draw here the ball itself, yung body niya. So you have Z and Z, tapos this. Okay, so far so good. And do not forget to add here the toolkit. And we will be syncing everything. .sync. Yan. So tignan natin kung pag nirun natin to may magpapakita na. Yan. The game, yan. So initially, kung napansin nyo, we set the body as, of course, 3. Diba? 0, 1, 2. Ibig sabihin. Yan o. Asan yung body natin? Ito, the dots itself. 3. That includes the head. Hindi pa yung gumagana. Siyempre, drawing lang natin eh. Diba? And take note, every time din na nagra-run tayo ng panibagong JFrame, si spawn ng Apple also changes. Ayan o. Si spawn ng Apple, nag-change siya every time na gumagana yung program. So, once na nag-collide si head dito kay Apple, nag-i-spawn ng panibagong Apple sa ibang position ngayon, in which ito yung hinahanap natin dyan. Okay, so far so good. The snake actually appeared in our JFrame and JPanel. This time, let's make the snake move one by one. And that is only possible dito sa loob ng action performed natin. So we will be adding here an action performed where the snake is moving. Okay? And later on, once na nagmo-move na si snake, pwede na rin natin siyang kontrolin isa-isa. Pero let me go ahead and show you the following codes muna dito. Sige. Kung hindi kayo nakahabol sa part na to, go ahead and screenshot. So you have here the init board. Okay? You have the load images. You have here the init game, in which located the apple and set the timer. Next is you have the paint component na kanina pa nandiyan, diba? And the do drawing. Ayan, si do drawing ngayon. Next, let's move here dito sa action perform natin. Now, for as long as the game is running, number 1, let's make the snake move. Yan, so pagagalawin na natin, no? Pagagalawin na natin si snake para mas masaya na siya. So, we have here private void, move. Ayan. And for the move method here, ano ko na to ngayon? For the move method, I'll set the joints ni snake natin. Oops. Z modulo z, z is greater than 0 and z minus minus. Yan. I'm just simply setting the joints itself para gumagalaw siya. Sumusunod siya sa mismong head natin. So this is z minus 1. Yan. And y, we have here z. We have y, z minus 1. So basically yung joints lang ito. Yan, ito. Yan, so this code moves the joints up the chain. Now, if the head actually moves to the left, automatic, the joint or the head of the snake itself will now be decreased. Yan, kapag nag-left siya, so pupunta siya dito. Okay? So kapag ka nag-right, magpa-plus siya. Kapag ka nag-up, magma-minus. Kapag ka nag-down, magpa-plus. So, gawin natin yung part na yan dito. We have here if yan. So, ang left direction natin is initially set into false. Diba? So, once na pinindot na natin si left direction, ibig sabihin mamaya sa keyboard, click natin. Once we click on the left button or the left arrow, what will happen? Automatic nagagalaw na siya. And susunod na lahat ng joints niya dito. Equals the dot size, which is 10. If we also click on the right direction, pero initially this is true, let's set the x value as incrementing positive equals the dot size itself. Let's also set the up direction. Yan. Pero this time, y na siya. Kasi up na yan, di ba? This should be minus equals, nagdi-decrement siya, the dot size. Let's also set here the down direction. Y 0 plus equals the dot size. Alright, so far so good. So we have here the move. And let's see if gagana na ba to? Or aandar na? Actually, hindi pa. Because we didn't really add here what we call the repaint method sa loob ni action perform. This is actually very important kasi for every action na nangyayari sa JFrame mo or sa loob ng board mo mismo, nagkakaroon ka dapat ng repaint. So every time na umaandar si snake mo, nagre-repaint yan ng paulit-ulit. So gumaganyan siya paulit-ulit. So let's run that and let's hope the snake should run. Ayun. So the snake is running, di ba? But initially, the direction of the snake is on the right because we actually set here the right direction as true. Yan. And once we have clicked here the left direction, automatic si left direction will now become true and all of the direction will now become false. Kapag ka-click natin si up direction, yan, siya ngayon na magto-true, lahat ngayon ng direction magko-false. Pag click natin si down direction, this will now have a value of true and everything should be false. So that's the idea of how the movement of our snake actually works. So dito tayo ngayon. Okay na si move method natin. Let us now go ahead and try to work on with the T-adapter. So si T-adapter ngayon, dito ngayon yung part na may keyboard click na tayo. So you have here an override annotation, public void key press, and we have a key event E. Okay, so alam naman natin to, no? Na pag-aralan na rin natin to previously. So for every action na click na ginagawa mo, I'll store that in a key variable and I'll just simply get the key code. Okay, let's prepare here the following key codes. If the key event is vk underscore left, yan, and at the same time, the right, it is actually not in the right direction, yan, what will happen? Again, pwede nyo itong mapalitan into WASD or WASD. So kung gusto nyo yung left nyo is corresponding to underscore A, possible din po yan. Diba? Pero in this case, para yung muna, D-pad kumbaga, up, down, left, right tayo. Now, if you have clicked here the left key button and at the same time, the right direction is true. Okay? If the right direction is true, kasi right direction is false initially. So, not false is equivalent to true. Let's set here the left direction as true. Sabihin, pupunta ngayon siya sa left. Si up direction will now become false. Si down direction will now become false. Set next. Let's set the key event here as vk underscore right. And at the same time, not equal to the left direction. So, ibig sabihin, dapat papunta na si snake kay right pag ganyan na siya. So, kapag nangyari yan, pag pinindot na natin si right position natin, the right direction will now become true. Yan. The up direction will now become false. And the down direction will now become false as well. Nagagets yung logic, no? Madali lang nang intindihin yung logic ng pagpindot. Diba? Next, if this time, nagpindot ka ngayon dito ng key event.vk underscore up. Yan. And the down direction is true. Okay. Let's have your up direction is equal to true. Right direction into false. Left direction is equal to false as well. Tapos, we have here the key event .vk underscore down. And at the same time, up direction naman ito. The down direction will now become true. So after neto, dapat gumagana na. Kaya na nating makontrol si snake natin. This is false. Left direction is equal to false. Ayan. Nga, try nating i-run yung program. Down, right, right. So, there you go. I'm clicking on left. Up, right, left. Left, up, right, down, right, up. And as you can see, the snake is now working. But then, of course, there is still missing. Kasi hindi pa nakakain ni snake si apple. Diba? The idea of this one is that once the snake head collided with the apple, the dots will be incremented by 1. So, as of the moment, 3 dots yan eh. Yan o. Diba? So, yun yung gawin natin ngayon. So far, are you guys still following? If not, don't worry. Pwede nyo ulit mapanood naman tong lesson natin. Okay? So, I guess, nandito na tayo sa may part ng, let's actually try to recheck everything here. We have the init game. So far, so good. We have the paint component. We have the do drawing. The game over, last na natin yung gagawin. Okay? We also have here the move, in which si move na tawag yan sa loob ni action performed method. Now, for the action performed method, inside the action performed method, let's add here another apple in which we'll simply check the apple. I-check niya yung apple natin. Okay? So, si check apple kasi, siya rin yung tatawag later on kay locate apple. Yan, si check apple. Yan. So, if the apple collides with the head, we increase the number of joints of the snake, and we call the locate apple method, which randomly positions a new apple object. In the move method, we have the key algorithm of the game, and to understand it, look at how the snake is moving. We control the head of the snake, and we can change its directions with the cursor keys. So, check apple, ilagay natin si check apple siguro dito sa baba ni game over, just above the move method. So, we have private void check apple. Ayan. Now, if lagay tayo ng if statement dito na dalawa. And isa lang pero with 2 conditions and an end statement. Ayan. So, kapag ka nag-collide daw, si first position ng ating head or body, tapos si Y, and pagka nag-collide na silang dalawa, apple Y. Okay. So, dito tayo ngayon mag-i-increase ng dots. Ayan. So, dito ngayon yung maglalagay tayo ng isang dots. And we will be spawning another apple. So, dito yan. Mag-spawn ng panibagong apple. So, pero wala pang nangyari. Hindi pa yan totally nagko-collide. Kasi, ang collision, that will actually serve as a separate code for all of us. So we have here what we call the the check collision method. So this is actually where we will be determining if the snake has hit itself or one of the walls. So we have several if statement dito. If actually the snake head, if the snake head hit itself or the wall, something should happen. Nagets ba natin? So dito yan, no? Check apple. Tawagin natin yan ulit dito sa loob ni action performed method. So sa baba lang ni check apple is where we will be calling the check collision method. Yan. Si check collision method, ilagay lang natin siya sa baba ni move. Ito si move natin. Baba lang natin to. We have private void, check collision, and there you go. So once again, if the head, this is a code na kung saan kapag ka natira niya si head, or si head sa mismong body ni snake, yan, z minus minus, for int z equals dot c greater than greater than to 0, z minus minus, and what will happen? But then, bakit ako merong error dito? Expression expected. Okay. So, int z is equal to dots. And int c is equal to dots. And so far, so good. If dalawa ulit to eh. So, may if statement ka dito. Kapag ka na-hit niya si body mismo, ito yung start ng body, and equals to the value of the same body, same head, I mean. And at the same time, teka, parang mali ito x0, x0, tapos equal z, tatlo yan eh. And another, which is yung head position ng y naman, is actually the same with the position of the head and the body itself. Papareho sila. Oh, this is interesting. Ganyan pala yung pagkakasulat ko ng code. Yan. So, automatic yung in-game natin will now be false. So, si in-game natin, hindi pala equals dapat. In-game is equal to false itself. So, once na nag-false yan, pupuntahan dito ngayon kay game over. Again, this code actually checks if the head of the snake hits itself. Meaning, kapag ka na-hit niya yung mismong body niya. So, this code here will simply check if the head hit one of its bodies. So, kaya nga tinitignan niya isa-isa eh. Diba? So, x0, xz, y0, yz. Gawin din natin si panibagong if statement dito. If the snake itself actually hits the border, which is yung height natin, which is b height. Yan. Kapag ka na-reach niya yung pinakadulo, diba? So, y0 is less than to 0. Yan, dalawang klase yan eh. Yung game is equal to false. Same goes through with x. If na-hit natin si x ngayon with the 0, yan, and greater than 0, I mean, mali, greater than or equal, yan, b with, tapos si in-game should be false, and x pala, this is 0, less than 0, the value will now become false. Tama ba? Kapag ka na-hit ko si border, tandaan nyo, so you have 300 by 300 the border. And once na na-hit nyo yung border, yun na yun, automatic, di ba? Automatic na yung in-game natin magiging game over na, magiging false na siya. So therefore, if it is game over, it's also time for us to stop the timer. Ibig sabihin, tapos na yung game eh. Diba? So that's actually how the collision works. This is for the body. This is for the B height. Diba? Pagka na-reach na yung si height mismo. This is for the width. Pag na-reach na sa width mismo. Pag dumating siya sa may left and right na part. And once na in-game is not true, of course, the game should end itself. Ayan, so let's actually try to see and check if may nakalimutan pa tayong part dito. We have here the locate apple. We have here the move. We have the check apple. Yan, so game over pa. So si game over naman, this is very easy because we will just simply print a message. Yan. Print lang natin si message na game over. Now, if you want to convert this into a J-option pane, pwede lang. So I'll call a font. I'll name that as a small new font. Helvetica. And font.bold is equal to 14. Tapos si font metrics natin is METR. Yung ano lang to. Font metrics, small. Let's set the color of the font as white. Let's also set the font as the small. And finally, let's draw the string natin. Saan natin siya i-drawing? Ano yung i-drawing natin? Si message na game over. Saan natin siya i-drawing? Sa height. Tapos, let's make sure na nasa gitna siya. So, kunin natin si width. Yan. Divided by 2. And of course, the height divided by 2. So, ginitna ko lang siya, kaya yan nag-divided by 2. So, whatever the size of the message here will automatically be positioned at the height, of the width, which is in the middle, automatic. Kaya nga divided by 2 yan. So, in the middle yan. And b height divided by 2. Okay. So, finally, pwede natin ito i-run. Yan natin, no? So, kung may part kayo na hindi nyo nasundan, sabihin nyo lang sa akin. I-type nyo lang dito sa group chat natin para ma-akyat natin. Ayan, no? So, right now, the head of the snake actually collided. If the snake collided, automatic, nagdadagdag yan ng dots. Mahaba din. And the speed of the snake is actually dependent on the delay, yung timer na nilagay natin kanina. Ayan. Diba? So, tingnan natin kung, halimbawa, dumikit siya sa sarili niyang katawan. Ayun. Diba? So, na-game over. Now, let's actually try naman na idikit to sa may height natin. Yan. So, game over. Next, idikit ulit natin kay width naman. This is game over. So, everything is actually working perfectly fine. Okay, do you have any questions so far? What part here ang gusto nyong makita ulit na hindi nyo nasundan? Sige, isa-isahin ko na lang muna. No? You have, once again, the main method, the snake.java class. And you have the following packages that you need to import. And followed by the variables that you need to declare. You have the constructor board that calls the init board and the load images. So far, so good. We have here the init game. Ito lang yung pagset ng katawan niya, pagdidikit ng katawan niya para dumikit-dikit siya together with the locate apple. We also have here the paint component. Ayan. We have here the do drawing. We have here the game over. We have here the check apple. The move method. The check collision. Locate apple, action performed, and the T adapter method. Okay, sige. So, ayan. So, I think okay na yung magiging problem natin dito. So, let's proceed with the next, no?